Ooh, the marching band's.
Uh-oh.
Is that the marching band? The drum line? Walking through the University of Arkansas.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is guest artist Nick Finzer is in town for the week.
Sure.
But there's no rush, so
Okay.
I'll give you the floor.
Cool. Well, I'm glad to be here with you all. Can I just get a sense, like, how many undergrads? Are all undergrads? And a couple grad students? Singular? Cool. So, obviously, my name is Nick. You can just call me Nick. That's fine. And I live in New York City. I just kind of freelance in New York. And I went to the Eastman School of Music for my undergrad, and then for grad school I ended up moving to New York to go to Juilliard. It's all always about just playing trombone, you know. And when I was in undergrad, I didn't want to kind of believe that, and I kind of tried to, you know, fight my teacher about it. But now on the other side, just kind of trying to learn. No matter what music you want to play in the future, you kind of have to just deal with the instrument first. Whether you want to play in an orchestra or play jazz or play any number of commercial type gigs, because basically everything that I said I didn't want to do when I was in college, I'm doing. There's a lot of things that I do want to do that I'm also doing, but like anything that I said, like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to play Broadway shows. It sounds boring. And now, like, I do it all the time, and it's just like, you kind of change your views on things. But with something like that, if you don't have the basics of playing an ensemble together, whether it's classical music or not, you still have to have that great ensemble, a great pitch and tone and quality and all those things. So regardless of wherever you guys feel like you want to go after here playing wise, taking the time now to get together, like the trombone stuff, is super super important. And I'm sure you already know this already anyway, but I'm happy to talk about a lot of different things. I'm looking forward to hearing you guys play, but just in case you haven't ever heard me play before, not that it's something you need to hear, but maybe I'll play for you guys something. I wanted to be an orchestral player when I was coming up, and when I was in 10th grade in high school, I got a chance to join a group that used to rehearse on Saturday afternoons, and down at Eastman, because I'm from Rochester, New York, where Eastman is, and we used to get together on Saturdays and play the music of Duke Ellington, and that music kind of changed my path in music from wanting to play excerpts to over and do this kind of jazz thing. And we got to go down to New York and go to the Lincoln Center before there was a jazz at Lincoln Center and perform. And anyway, that kind of hooked me on that. And so I have several records that I've put out in the last couple of years, mostly of my original music. And the last record that came out February of last year was the first time I've tried to include some other people's music, and so I wanted to include something by Duke Ellington. And so for the record, I arranged this tune for 3 trombones and 2 bass clarinets and rhythm section. And obviously, that's not something you can go out on the road with. But so the piece originally was just a solo piano piece by Duke. So I tried to come up with a way to perform it also as a solo trombone piece. And so I'll play that for you guys. It's called Single Petal of a Rose. So yeah, that piece was something that I kind of put together. You know, one of my first trombone teachers was a guy named Wycliffe, jazz trombone teachers. He does all these crazy things. I've always been trying to find ways to kind of incorporate some of those extended kind of techniques into putting something that sounds sort of like music. And so that's kind of where that came from. And one of my teachers when I was in college at Juilliard, Steve Turre, he kind of had challenged me a couple times to like put together some solo arrangements of tunes to be able to present, and so that's one of those that I kind of put together. But you know, so outside of just trombone and playing and stuff, I said, you know, I play all kinds of different music in New York, but you know, something that has been always really important to me is kind of the other side of things. And so by the other side, I mean the industry side, the career side, you know, all that stuff. I don't know how many of you guys are starting to think about all that stuff, but when I was in college, you know, I started putting groups together and putting together, you know, educational packages and going out to not colleges, but high schools and middle schools and starting to get my feet wet and giving master classes and stuff to like jazz groups or concert bands and different things, which eventually led to how I'm here now. With my friend Chris and I, we started a nonprofit in 2011 called the Institute for Creative Music. And so we've done a lot of workshops around kind of outreach type things in places where there's not a lot of jazz. So coming from a place like New York City where there's so much oversaturation and it's very concentrated, we've tried to kind of go to places where there isn't as much. And so one place we've been a bunch of times is Montana. And you know, there are jazz musicians there, but not as many as in New York. So you know, we kind of try to go, you know, where things where we can offer something where there's not a lot of other people offering the same thing. So that has been an avenue for us to not only collaborate musically and do projects like we're doing this week, but also to be able to connect with students like all over the country and share with them things about, you know, jazz and why we're passionate about it, and things of that nature. So I put that together, and then I've always had a studio on the side since I was in high school, teaching lessons and all this kind of thing. And when I got out of my master's, I ended up writing a jazz trombone kind of. It's not really a method book, but it's a jazz trombone book to try to help classical players that don't necessarily have the specific skill set yet, you know, to try and get some of those skills together in terms of playing jazz and phrasing and all that kind of thing. So I ended up writing that book and putting out 3 records over the last 5 years, and then I started a record label and media company called Outside of Music, and so helping my friends put out their music and putting out online content and videos and kind of trying to figure out how to use Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and everything to be an avenue of creation and an avenue of career success and being able to do the things that we want to do musically and kind of just everything. So for me, like, it's kind of a 360 view of kind of everything. Like I couldn't just be playing only the gigs, you know. I have to be doing lots of things, and touring is a part of that, and playing touring bands, and then playing my own music and all that sort of thing. So I can encourage you to do anything after today. Is whatever thing that you're thinking about you want to do when you get done here, you should start doing it now, because it always takes longer than you think it's going to take, like to get things going or to get to where you want to be. And it's important to like just remember to be patient and be okay with how long it takes. You know, just everything takes longer. Making records always takes longer than you think. Putting a project together, putting a tour together, it's like you think you can do it, you know, but it's like, you know, just think about like the calendar of the school they're putting together, like guest artists, probably not for some for next year, but anything big is like, 2 years down the road, maybe more, in terms of trying to get things together. So everything is always like, takes longer than you think, and you should start sooner than you think, because you need time to kind of develop. So if you're thinking about starting a trombone quartet and getting out there and doing stuff, just you should start doing it now while you have all the resources of a great professor and just each other to kind of help. So anything you guys can do to start any sort of entrepreneurial thing that you're thinking about, you should do it, because the industry, people always say, it's changing, and it's, it has changed. It's done, like it's totally not what it was even 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Who knows what's going to happen? And if you want to make a life in music, you totally can do it, but you have to be willing, to go and be in the places where people are paying attention. So, everyone's attention is here on this thing, So if you can find a way to get yourself and your music or your teaching or whatever it is you want to do in front of people here, that is super important, and it's important to start figuring it out now. So I encourage you all to kind of do that. I know that's like a lot of information to throw at you really fast. I'm like, oh, I do all this stuff, I'm so cool. But it's not. It's not like about that. To me, it's just a lot of times when I saw people come in when I was in college, they would just be not super realistic about what was happening. They'd just be like, I'm so awesome, and let me play my solo piece for you, and then my life is great, and like I'm so good at the trombone. But it's really like you have to do everything, and just being realistic and sharing, what it's like to be out there and doing it. So I'm happy to talk about any of that. But
yeah, just wondered if I could ask you to make suggestions as far as what you're speaking for to those that are going to be music educators. Mm-hmm. When you say getting out there trying to do the thing that you want to do now, how do you think that could apply to them?
How many music ed majors? Most of you guys? Cool. I mean, so if you want to, some former students of mine keep on asking me the same question, like, how do I get, good at teaching? Well, the way you get good at teaching is by teaching and figuring out how students, learn. And if you want to land your first job, it'd be great if you already had a bunch of experience, right? It's like this chicken and egg thing where you're like, I can't get the job because I have no experience, but I can't get experience because I have no job. Right, and I think it's true in any industry, but sometimes what people don't realize that they need to do is just go and teach. Don't ask for money. And so if you can go out into the schools here and just teach trombone lessons or teach a master class or start your own studio on the side and try to start building up, a repertoire of things for your resume on the teaching side, especially if you want to, you want to be a music educator, you want to get either college or high school or middle school teaching job. That's going to set you apart if you have, those skills under your belts already. And I know sometimes, you're in college and you don't want to do that, or you don't want to give up your time for no money, but man, it's like the way that I've gotten into every situation is basically just be like, okay, I'll do that, and I'll go here, and I'll go, and I did tons of master classes without ever wanting to get any money. And sometimes there's money and sometimes there's not, but it's more to me about doing it, getting the experience of it, and then being self-aware when you're in a situation like this, okay, this guy's coming in, he's talking, do I connect with him, do I not connect with him, how is he speaking, is he presenting any useful information, and how can I learn from that? And so for me, there's been, in terms of presenting jazz content and material, a lot of people that I've seen come in and basically they do a thing where they come in and they'll play something and then they just say, I am the master, ask me questions. And that's a master class. But I feel like it's important to have at least a few things that you can offer that somebody else maybe can't offer, that are at least points of view, or something that you're going to say that is at least you. Why bring you instead of some other trombone or whatever? But if people want to be music educators, the sooner you can start teaching and figuring out how to connect with students, I think is the best thing we can do. So it's going to set you apart in the job search if you already have 5 years of teaching experience, before you even get out. I don't know what you guys think, but teaching the elementary school kids how to make their first couple sounds on the trombone, man, I'm like, how did I do that? I don't even remember back that far, So, for me, that's something that's super difficult. But if you can do it, more power to you. And so, regardless of where you want to go, start doing it so that you don't get out and you're I don't know how to get a job. You've already maybe had the job, or people who wait around, they're not the people that are going to get the thing that they want. The early bird gets the worm is a real thing. Awesome. Well, I'll let you kind of marinate a little bit on that. And let's see, who wants to
let's
play?
do the quartet first.
As I turn it on so I can see how I sound like when I'm trying to help a student. So I think what you are experiencing behind your bell is not what's coming out.
Okay.
Because I can see, like, I feel like as an observer, not knowing you, that you obviously know the music, you know how this piece goes, you have the context musically of like what's happening. But I think the level of detail with which you're dealing with what's coming out your bell is not to the level that your concept is at.
Okay.
And so I think, and that starts, I think, all the way with kind of consistency of articulation. Are you working on any articulation things?
Not really in my lessons, but I go through some in the ARP as part of my warm-up.
Okay, so can you just do this for me? Can you just play a 2-octave G-flat scale and articulate each note like da 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 da?
Okay.
Okay. To me, it sounds like you're shutting off every single note at the end.
Okay.
Da 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 da. I like to think about the tongue hitting the note like a hammer hits a bell. Da. And regardless, like, we're not trying to make a longer note. We're just trying to let the note go out and go into the room and die on its own without our help. Because
Okay.
we don't need to help it. It's going to die. So can you play that same thing and just think about that bell thing? Try to make it more resonant. What I mean is, like, we're going from, I'm exaggerating. I want to try to make it fill in this space like as much as you can.
Okay.
Even more. I think you can do even more. Yeah, but then it was a little bit more full. This is why you need to record yourself, because it doesn't sound the same.
Okay.
It's like all of a sudden there's like a different character and color to the notes, which is just the nature of the trombone, like doing its thing. But you have to compensate for it, and you have to kind of know, Just to give you context, like when I was doing my master's at Juilliard, this is what I did with my teacher, Steve Turre, all the time. We're talking about different repertoire, but it was like, play one note. No, it doesn't match the fullness and richness of these other notes. And so it translates and transcends genre. It's just, like I was saying at the beginning, it's just like trombone stuff.
Right.
So have you ever also tried doing breath attacks?
No, I haven't.
You ever do that? Is something, do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know what his approach is, but the best way that I understood it was like thinking about spitting a grain of rice.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a thing. And the reason that I say that is because we were talking about the consistency of the articulation. And so if you practice the breath attack, just like on a half the trombone. Just thinking. And then I'm going to do 2 and 2 to try to match them. So I'll do breath attack first and then tongue. So that way when you put the tongue in, it's like the articulation of the breath is already happening on its own from the breath. But then you just add just a little bit of clarity to it by adding the tongue to the tongue. So could you do that? Could you just try some breath attacks on it? Yeah, nice. So just try to think about that cleanliness and consistency of the articulation, which Arbin's exercise are you doing?
I don't know the exact number, but just.
But what is it? Just play it.
I don't have it memorized.
Oh, you don't play it that much then?
No.
Okay, well get some that you can do that you have memorized.
Okay.
And do you do it as like a daily part of your routine?
No.
Yeah, like articulation, for me at least, I think articulation is definitely something that goes in the basket with long tones.
Okay.
For me. And just because as an improviser, it's someone that wants to be able to play anything at any time. Obviously the articulation is the vehicle for the rhythm. So being clear and confident with your various articulations is important. So even if it's just scales or whatever.
Okay, Tyler, do you play like scales every day?
Yes.
Yeah, he's got an articulation exercise.
Yeah. So whatever it is, And I would, specifically, I would try to do some stuff that has leaps in it. So
Okay.
everyone's played scales and thirds before, obviously. But have you guys ever tried to practice like scales in fourths or fifths? Like diatonic?
Yeah.
So it'd be like. So trying to match up the articulation and make sure it's got clean front, nice body, and you're not cutting it off at the end.
Okay.
All of those three things. But practicing it slow and focusing in on that consistency. Is
Okay.
the thing. So just do the scales, but do them in intervals, because getting them all in a row is cool, but as you know, they're mostly not in a row.
Right.
You know. So that's what I think will help you, is to try to go back and just like focus in on the articulation stuff and get it consistent, because so that when you don't have to play that, you're not. It's kind of like a moving target almost, and you're kind of like hitting all around instead of right in the center all the time, you know, with your tongue. So I think if you add it into your daily routine,
Okay.
you'll all of a sudden it'll kind of click.